Welcome back to the podcast, everyone. I'm your host, Tamara. Today we are discussing the first book in our first fantasy series of the year. If you would like to see this in video format without ad breaks, you need to head on over to Patreon and sign up. We also have a fun after show available on Patreon. If Patreon isn't your style, you can head on over to the Spreaker app and get the audio-only version of our after shows and some other exclusive content, audio only. Don't forget, you can also join me and my two co-hosts over on the Book Clubs app for even more bookish chats. Please subscribe and like the podcast wherever you're listening. If you want to reach out to me, you can find me pretty much everywhere at Shelf Addiction. Joining me today is featured co-host Casey from Heart Full of Ink. Welcome back, Casey.
Hi, I'm so excited to be here today.
Woohoo! Tell everybody where they can find you online.
You can find me on Facebook at Heartful of Ink, on Instagram at Casey_Heartful of Ink, or on my website, heartfulofink.com.
Okay, so before we begin, as always with book chats, I'd like to remind you that we talk full spoilers here. So spoiler alert, you've been warned. Today we are discussing Serpent and Dove, book 1 of 3, written by Shelby Mahurin. The audiobook is narrated by Holter Graham and Saskia Maravelt, published on September 3rd, 2019 by Harper Teen and Harper Audio. The hardcover is 513 pages, and the unabridged audio comes in at 14 hours and 13 minutes. Casey, would you kindly share the synopsis?
Bound as one to love, honor, or burn. 2 years ago, Louise LeBlanc fled her coven and took shelter in the city of Cesarine, forsaking all magic and living off whatever she could steal. There, witches like Lou are hunted, they are feared, and they are burned. Sworn to the church as a chasseur, Reed Diggory has lived his life by one principle: thou shalt not suffer a witch to live. His path was never meant to cross with Lou's, but a wicked stunt forces them into an impossible union, holy matrimony. The war between witches and church is an ancient one, and Lou's most dangerous enemies bring a fate worse than fire. Unable to ignore her growing feelings, yet powerless to change what she is, a choice must be made, and love makes fools of us all.
Okay. So before we begin, I kind of want to just give some information.
Yes.
Before. So, all right, let's talk about Serpent and Dove. So, Serpent and Dove on Goodreads right now, as of our recording date, is rated 4 out of 5 stars even, with 398,000 ratings. So those are people not necessarily leaving a review, but they're checking
that they read it
stars.
And left a yes.
Right. And I'm going to warn you guys, I deviate. I don't love it like the masses. And I've read this over a week ago. So I found myself reviewing it this morning. And upon further review, my opinions have altered a little bit. So just be forewarned. I hate that. I hate that I finished so soon before that, because it's like a catch-22. So I like when I'm able to like give some more thought on it and break it down in my mind a little bit and think more on it and look at it more critically. But sometimes I think it takes the instant fun out of it when I start thinking about it harder. So when did you finish?
So I read this book for the first time 2 years ago while drinking rum and sitting on a beach in Hawaii.
Okay.
And I loved it back then. And then
I
just never picked up.
You had the perfect conditions.
I
beautiful
did.
environment and an alcoholic beverage.
Yes.
Okay.
Like if I could recreate that again, I would. And I kept trying to recreate that in my mind, but I was stuck in snow. Anyway, I never picked up the second one.
Okay.
And I always remember like I liked this book. And so I suggested it for our fantasy read along because I wanted to eventually read the rest of the series. So I reread it for a second time this month. And I don't love it as much, but I don't think I hate it as much as you do, which I'm really excited about. Because usually, like, like 90% of the time we're on the same page with stuff. And then that
Yeah.
10% of the time we are polar opposites. And I love those conversations for us.
So I'm going to just step back one time. I'm not going to say I hate it.
Mhm.
I'm going to say I have a mild dislike.
Okay.
So it's not a full on hate, but it's definitely, I see a lot of the problems. It's definitely got some problematic parts that we'll dig into.
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
And I fully acknowledge this is the author's first book.
Mhm.
So I think I'm trying to give it some grace, hoping that she has learned some things and got some feedback in book 2 is
Mhm.
managed better. But I guess time will tell. We'll have to see.
Yes.
So, as we do, high level, when you first finished the book, what were your initial thoughts?
I'm excited for the next book. I enjoy this one. Like you said, it's a debut novel, so I'm picking up on issues, but also I'm giving her a lot of grace because I can see things where I'm like, I know you have read this book 10 million times and you are missing these problems because you don't remember if you wrote it in this draft or a different draft. And that just comes with my background in editing. So I'm giving a lot of grace for that right up front because I'm like, oh, I know exactly who you are and where you are in your writing, and you needed like one more good solid edit with an editor who was reading it for the first time,
Mhm.
not another repeat with the same editor with the same beta readers. She just needed like one good strong edit. But I'm giving her that grace because it was her first book ever published, and I've seen a lot of first books that are much worse than this.
Mhm.
So, yeah. No,
Okay.
I love the character development. I'm excited for the world building and what's happening next with the Red Witches, but I'm going to probably agree with you on a lot of your issues and nitpicky stuff.
Okay. So when I finished, I thought, okay, sure. Let's see what happens. But I was like, I don't know. I felt like it was a lot of pages to just seem like it kind of rushed to the end.
Mhm.
Um, so I guess it was kind of exciting at the end, but I felt like there was too much excitement dumped in the end and not enough throughout the book. So, I wasn't like super excited to jump into the next book, but I'm not dreading it either. I'm
That's
not in a
good.
rush. I'm not in a rush. I'm looking at the calendar like, when do I have to have it read by? And
Mhm.
I'm going to start like 1 week before then.
Yep.
So, I'm curious to see if I like it more. So that's kind of where my high level was.
Mhm.
Um to speak to the character development that you brought up,
Mhm.
it was empty character development to me.
Really?
And so by that, I'm thinking about Reed specifically.
Yes.
I had a hard time with him because I felt like he reminded me of other characters that everyone shits on. Like, for example, people shit on Edward Cullen.
Oh my god.
And I feel like there's strong Edward Cullen vibes coming off of him.
I love this so much.
The jealousy,
Uh-huh.
the possessiveness, the I know better than you, the holier than thou attitude, the hard headedness and unwillingness to bend, all the negative character traits that everyone hates on Edward Cullen
Mhm.
is Reed.
To be fair, Reed doesn't watch her while she sleeps, though. I'm sorry, that was a
He
joke.
doesn't do that. But he does say, "Yeah, oh my god, you're my worst enemy. Yeah, I'll fucking kill
Mhm.
you." He is so aggravating, and I find nothing sexy about his character. Nothing is cute. Nothing. I'm like, I it's important to me for the male characters when they start in one place and they finish somewhere else. I need to feel it. I need to
Mhm.
be on their team. I want
Mhm.
to like them
Mhm.
and I want to root for the couple. And in this case, I'm like, ugh, like I don't understand why she loves him. And that leads to my first, well, I guess second
Yes.
issue. This was clearly set up as a like enemies to lovers situation,
Mhm.
right?
Yes.
And it's clearly set up to be a slow burn, I think.
Mhm.
But I think it failed in the transition of enemies to lovers. And by what that means to me is I tried to go back and find where the relationship changed, and I couldn't really pinpoint it. It was like 1 minute, I'm gonna cuss everybody out. I fucking hate you. She's calling him a saussure every day or all day. And the next
Mhm.
it's Reed. Oh, you're so gorgeous. Oh God. Touch me,
The
love me, I love you. I'm like, bitch, what happened? I mean, I missed the transformation. It's like, yeah, they had a couple of good conversations, but in those conversations, they were still bickering. They
Yeah.
still didn't agree. They
Mhm.
still had severe opposite opinions on how to treat people and how to. It's crazy. Like, it's
Yes.
not enough to make me go from hate to love. And I'm like, where did that happen?
So I would say it really the biggest turning point was after he killed the witch Estelle, and she had her little fainting spell and was passed out for 3 days, and he sat by her bedside and, like, fed her the ice chips, and after she woke up, she was like, "Okay, maybe you're not as awful as I thought." And then after that was when Andre and not Gru, but Andre and whatever his name is, almost killed her. And then he broke in and didn't save her because she saved herself. But she's like, oh my God, I almost died again. I need to have life affirming sex right now because death is constant and I need human life affirming connection right now.
Well, Lou fell in love with him for the wrong reasons. Because all of those circumstances, while yes, that was nice for her, it was
Hmm.
under false pretenses. He still
Oh,
doesn't know
yeah.
who she is. So, yes, he's treating her kindly in these moments. And yeah, the sex might have been good. But
Hmm.
because he doesn't know who you are, how could you fall in love with someone who doesn't know you? That's why I'm like, I don't get it. Now, I would have felt like had Lou disclosed to him sooner. It seemed like she was going to, but she didn't. But had
Yes.
she disclosed, had the author chose to have her disclose sooner and have him hate her for a couple of weeks and then come around, I think I would have bought that more than her
Hmm.
just falling in love with him because he was nice to her a handful of times and the sex was good. Because as soon as he found out about her, he's like walks away.
He does.
I'm
He
like,
does.
Jesus Christ, man. And she's all like, I love him, but I deserve this. I lied. I'm like, bitch, okay. I can't. So to me, I just I don't buy it. It's some bull. And then at the end, I guess it's a little better, but again, the process of how we got there, it was like, oh my God, she's really might die now. Okay. I guess maybe she's not that bad after all, and maybe I should go help her.
It took him a hot friggin' minute to come around. All his friends were beating it into him, and he was like, "No, I'm gonna be stubborn. No, I'm gonna be mean." Ugh.
Poor like Ansel,
Mhm.
he's like, did everybody know? Did you know? He like, well,
Yeah, I
yeah.
knew.
I just felt like Reed was such a douchebag. I'm sorry.
It's
And
fair.
I don't love him. And even at the end, I'm like, yeah, he's cute. He carried her. Meh. Yeah, he's doing like again, he's doing all the sweet things for her, but it's
Mhm.
all out of context. I feel like it's just his overriding fear of her dying that's
Mhm.
overriding it. He's not going to be done with his, I hate witches. We're not done.
No, which I'm hoping book 2 is going to, like, really deep dive into now that, spoiler alert from the last chapter, he has magic! So now
I
he
know.
is a witch, unless they're gonna call him a wizard, which I hope they don't. I wanna call him a witch.
He's gonna be denying it and
Mhm.
suppressing and self-hating and everything for the first quarter of the book, probably.
Probably. Also, he just killed his father figure, so he's gonna have all of that angst.
He's gonna be like, "Oh, I'm horrible. No wonder no one loves me. I'm shitty. I have a witch who is also a witch for a mother who is also a madam. Ah!
Oh, no!
And I'm a bastard of a king. Oh God!" He's gonna feel like his whole world has tumbled, and I don't know. I think I'm gonna be laughing because I don't know.
I love this. I absolutely love this. So, from my point of view, I did not hate him that much. I don't love him. He's not the best book boyfriend ever, but I never compared him to Edward Cullen. And now that you did, that's going to be stuck in my brain forever. And I'm just
Sorry,
going to
not
laugh.
sorry.
um, I thought it was a very, like you said, slow burn. He was very set in his ways, enemies to lovers. And I appreciated the fact that she truly tried to make it last for enemies to lovers. Like, they are opposite sides, they're forced together in marriage, they're sleeping in the same room, even though he's being nice and sleeping on the floor. Like, he wasn't an awful douchebag, but there were times when I was like, "Oh my god, guy, get over yourself. Like, pull your head out of your ass." And I really appreciated every time she said that to him because, yeah, that's when I was saying it too.
Mhm. But
And yeah.
what'd you think about the marriage, like the forced marriage? Did you think that the grounds were legitimate or
Oh,
stupid?
not at all. I thought it was so absurd, but I was like, "All right, that's what the author that is the trope the author wanted, and that
Mhm.
was the way she found it." Again, if she had just one good edit with me, like, we could have taken this to perfection. But anyway, I digress.
I
Um,
mean, like, the irony of it, like, so it's really, like, really religious Christian-y people
mhm.
coming down on people that are, like, "bad," quote, unquote.
Yeah.
And it's like, you know how, like, the church in general, Imma say the
Mhm.
church as a catch-all,
Yes.
they're like, "Oh, men can do they're the head of the household, they can do
Mhm.
whatever.
Yep,
They can
your
treat their
wife is
women like
property, you
shit."
can log her in the closet and never think of her again.
Yeah, so why would a man beating up, quote, unquote, "on a girl" ruin his life? I don't quite get it. Like, no, it wouldn't.
Just in the sense that she was a stranger. If the church says, "Oh, no, that's his wife, he owns her, it's okay that he's doing this," they have they have these weird loopholes that really don't make sense if you ever try to think about it logically. That has always been my problem with the church, but that is a
Mhm,
whole 'nother discussion.
mhm,
Um, but yeah, no, it was a flimsy excuse at best, but given that, um, the archbishop was her father and apparently didn't want her dead, even though he knew she was the witch and still wanted to kill witches, and
I guess. Which
he wanted to
also is
protect
stupid,
her,
though.
but
But how could he okay, so how could
Mhm,
he wanna protect her? And how does she think being around a bunch of witch hunters could protect her when every time she performs magic, it has a
mhm,
smell, okay?
mhm. Yeah,
Um,
there was a whole thing about that I'm gonna nitpick later.
yeah, so the magic system is kind of weird, and she's doing magical things offhandedly,
Mhm,
even when she was, with those 2 guys in that room when,
mhm,
he breaks in and saves her, and she's like, "Oh, it smells like." I mean, I just feel like, yeah, like, she's used magic, and then she comes out of the little infirmary like, "Oh, it's from the infirmary."
mhm,
Bullshit! Like, all these people are well trained. They would
mhm.
smell it on you.
Except they're not well trained. They're just idiots
They're
running
supposed to
around with
be.
swords who think they're smart and know everything, but in reality, they don't know.
They don't know a lot, and she tells him a lot. She teaches him a
Mhm.
lot, which is again doesn't make sense to me. This is your enemy. Why are
Mhm.
you telling him things witches can do? And
Mhm.
things I just don't quite understand the motivation of that at this point so early in the game when you don't even like him. Why are you just trying to teach him that he's an idiot? Let him be an idiot.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense. I'm not
I
gonna
don't
defend her. That doesn't make sense.
I wish it had come out, like, in some kinda way that the author was doing that to, like I don't know if she was trying to humanize witches for him, but it didn't work.
Mm-mm.
It didn't work.
Well, it did at the very end because, he went to go rescue her, but it took
Oh,
500 pages for him to finally see them as human, and even then, he's like, "All the other witches, it's" he kept calling them "it's."
yeah,
That was the worst.
he
That was
did.
definitely the worst.
He called them "it's," and then he finally called someone a "she," and they were like, "Oh, oh, heaven, the gates have opened." He
It was
said
Lou.
"she."
He called Lou
Yes.
"she," and I was like,
Yeah.
"He's been calling her "she" the whole time." It would be hard to change her to "it."
I know. I feel like he thinks she's the exception, not the
Mhm,
rule. He still hates witches.
mhm. So I'm hoping next book is gonna be a really, like, topsy-turvy deep dive into his psyche of, like, well, now your family's witches, now you are a witch, now you're being hunted and prosecuted just the same way you did this to all these other witches, like, you need to have a come to Jesus moment, except not with Jesus because with the
Not his
goddess
Jesus. Right.
or
Mm.
whoever you wanna start worshiping now.
Oh my god. The look on his face when he figured out who his mother was, he thought he was gonna die. And I don't know
Mhm.
if it was because he was gonna die because she was a madam or it was because she was a witch. He was equally disgusted.
Both. Both at the same time. He is so hoity-toity, "I'm better than you.
Mhm.
You own a brothel, how dare you? How dare you sully yourself with bodily functions?"
Yeah, I don't like, I don't know, for now, I, had the feeling that this was supposed to be a feminist book. Is it?
Yes and no.
Because it's not, in my opinion. I feel like if she was going for it, she missed the mark. So, I'm gonna switch gears just a little bit
Yes.
because let me tell you the reasons why I don't think this is really feminist, or I guess it's quote unquote what people say bad feminist, right?
Mhm,
So, yeah, the author talks about the brothel, but there's one part she calls it a whorehouse. So
mhm.
I think it's shaming of sex workers.
Yeah.
And also, I think that there's even girl hate going on coming from Lou.
Oh, definitely.
Um,
Lou hates it's not Cecile, but Celie?
Celia or something.
Yeah.
And it's not because she's the ex. It's because
She's
she's,
so
quote,
pretty
delicate
and
and right.
yeah.
So unless you're kicking men's ass, you're shit.
Mhm,
Feminism is supposed to be all women, right?
mhm.
All things.
Yes, all
How
women.
how can you just say, "Well, you're soft and delicate, you're shitty."
Yeah.
I don't like
I
that.
think it was supposed to be jealousy of, like, "I'm not good enough, look at me, I'm dirty, I'm living in the streets,"
Well,
and
she
he
should have
was in
said
love.
that.
Yeah, she should've. She should've.
Yeah, because I would have been like, "Oh, well, you shouldn't come be that hard on yourself." I would have felt
Mhm.
different instead of her shit talking that other girl who didn't do anything. She wasn't a
No.
villain. She did nothing,
She did
literally.
nothing wrong, she literally did nothing wrong. Her
Yeah.
sister was murdered horribly by witches, and so she told her boyfriend, "Go like, leave me to go fight the witches who killed my sister," because she was deep in her grief, which
Mhm.
understandable, it broke his heart. But then he went and married a witch, and when she cried, I was like, "How could you do this to me? You actually married this stranger." He's like, "Yeah, and I love her now, so goodbye." Like, I kinda feel bad for Cecilia or Cecile or whatever her name is.
Yeah.
Like, her sister got murdered, she tried to do the quote, unquote, "right thing" by breaking up with her boyfriend, and he just
He goes and dives right in and
Yep.
like, "What? Like, this doesn't even make sense. What?" I get it. I get why she's like disappointed and upset about it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I don't know. That's why I just felt like with all of that going on and like how the whole themes of like the women versus the men, I just didn't feel like this was a feminist book to me.
It definitely felt like she was aiming for it and missed the mark.
Mm.
Because, yeah, it was very much us versus them, but showing that both sides have good and evil to them, and both sides have been traumatized by each other. Both sides do bad things to each other. There is no right answer, there's no wrong answer, and it's very general. It
Yeah, I
didn't
mean,
quite hit the mark.
exactly. I agree. Like even when like we talk about okay, so yeah, Lou marries Reed and they have to consummate their marriage. Why? Why do they have to? Why?
Because Christianity and,
Exactly. Bullshit. And then
owning women.
and she's like, "Okay, so she fakes it, right? She fakes
Mhm.
it." And they're like, "Okay, yeah, we did it. There. Done." I'm like, "Okay."
That did make me laugh. I was like, "How much you're slitting your arm open? How much blood?" And he was even like, "They're gonna think I murdered you with all
I
this
know.
blood."
I'm like, "What is this supposed to be like? Why you got so
Like,
much blood?" Like, she
she
could have
just needed
pricked
to,
her
like, cut her
finger.
hand or yeah, prick her finger, not slice her whole arm open.
You're just bleeding all over the place. No one bleeds that much.
No,
And
nobody
this
does, and if you do, you are being murdered.
you better go to the hospital. So, and then that's another thing. So Lou is supposed to be all more experienced, right, when it
Mhm,
comes to sex. And obviously Reed is not. So again, the fact that she just slits her arm like
mhm,
that, girl, girl.
yeah.
And then the sex scene, the one sex scene. I don't know.
So I have a question for you.
Okay. Yeah.
And in all the years we've done this, you always complain about the women being virgins.
Mhm.
What did you think about him being a virgin? Like, was that better, worse, annoying?
I didn't find it annoying. I think
Okay.
it fit the character because he's so holier than thou.
Oh, yes,
He would never.
absolutely.
So it fits, and so it didn't bother me, but it
Okay.
did kinda seem odd, so when they finally have sex together, seems like he doesn't have to work that hard, and I'm like, "You're a virgin, you shouldn't know what to do like that." And
She
she's not.
was teaching him a few things of like, "This is how you touch me. This like, this is where the
I
clit
know,
is."
but then he goes and bites her breast, and she's like, "Oh god!" I'm like, "What the fuck?" I'm like, "Okay." I I just, I just I I just was laughing. I didn't think it was sexy. I'm like, "What in the hell is happening?" And I don't know, I guess.
1, she hasn't had sex in a while, so, like, some pent up anything would get her off at this point, and 2, she was almost murdered, and in books, if you're almost murdered and you have life-affirming sex, you get off like that. Like,
Apparently, because it didn't take much.
that's the rules of fiction. That's the rules of book life.
I guess, because 'cause I'm like, "This okay," so it was kinda cute, but I was like, I guess the author kinda made it happen fast, and it seemed like Reed caught on really fast. He's a
Mhm.
fast study, I
He
guess.
is,
Mr.
he
Virgin
is.
is a fast study.
I mean, to be fair, like, he probably has some pent-up urges too if he's 20 years old and probably never really touched himself.
Oh god. He should be done in 2 seconds.
Yeah.
I don't think that would be fun experience for any woman because he'd be like, "Oh, I'm so sorry." So, I mean, that doesn't really that experience to me doesn't really hold up with being with a male virgin, in my opinion.
But I will say, like, there is something about her slowly corrupting him that I just love. Like, just,
Yeah.
like, in a general over sense of how, like, in the very beginning, she would say "ass," and he would, like, get all red in the face, and he
Like, "What are
couldn't
you
handle
saying?"
it.
Mhm.
And then by the end, when he says "fuck," and she's like, "Oh my god,
"Did
am I
you just
dead?
curse?
Did you
Oh my
curse?"
gosh." Yeah.
Like, that was a fun thing to watch him just slowly fall from his high horse.
When you're around someone a lot, you guys as a couple, you influence each other.
Oh,
Even if
yes.
you may not realize it, all couples do this. They all, after they've
Mhm.
been together long enough, they start taking on each other's
Yep.
traits,
Yep.
good and bad. Things just being around people like that. So, yeah, it's different. I do like that. That was kind of cute about
Mhm.
them. But I have more complaints.
Yeah, it's okay.
Let's take a quick break. Let's take a quick commercial break. And while you guys entertain these commercials, head on over and check out the book review journal available right now. It's not too late to start your new year with a fresh journal. Links are in the show notes. We'll be right back. Today's episode is brought to you by the Shelf Addiction merch store. Check out all the bookish t-shirts, notebooks, mugs, and more. Don't miss out on these original designs, perfect for any book nerd. Support the podcast and visit shelfaddiction.com/merch and pick up your next favorite bookish item. All right, welcome back, everyone. Where should we go to next? I feel like I've been monopolizing, running off at the mouth.
I'm enjoying this. I mean, I can start nitpicking. So like you mentioned the smell with the magic earlier.
Mm-hmm.
And so there was the scene where her friend Bass was caught.
Mm-hmm.
And she decides that she has to rescue him, kind of ish.
Mm-hmm.
But mostly save her own ass is what she wants to do.
Mm-hmm.
And so when they get caught afterward, their lie has holes the size of my fist, right? But the biggest lie, the one that really annoyed me the most, was the smell and the bath. So that whole scene started with Lou in the bathtub with lavender bubble soap. It was a whole big thing. He walked into the bathroom, saw her in the bubbles, like it was a whole thing. And then she and Ansel went down to the dungeons or whatever, took Baz's memories so he couldn't reveal that she was a witch to anybody. And then she and Ansel passed out. They woke up. She dragged him into the library where they were caught by Jean-Luc and her husband, Reed. And they're like, yeah, well, we were upstairs with all the other magic stuff. So that's why we smell like magic right now.
Mm-hmm.
I was like,
no, ma'am.
I know this lie is supposed to have lots of plot holes because, you just literally dragged yourself from the dungeon into the library. You're confused. Nothing makes sense. But for the love of God, he just found you in the bathtub. You should not smell like magic. You should smell like lavender.
Still.
Yeah. It's been, I don't know, half an hour, maybe an hour since you were in the bathtub. You would not smell like magic. You would smell like your bubble soap. But they're like, oh no, we were upstairs in the magic and I didn't teach her how to wash properly. So that's why she smells like magic right now. And I'm like, he's an idiot, yes, but he's not that much of an idiot. Like, for the love of God.
He's willingly choosing to believe it, I think. He just doesn't want to question.
Yeah.
So, sure, I guess.
It was just one of those moments where I was like, I know he's an idiot, but god damn, does he have any brain cells right now?
No, none. It seems like he has none a lot of the time.
Even Ansel should have been like, yeah, I mean, we were in the room at some point. We were upstairs and then we were in the room and I don't remember what happened next, but like, she took a bath, right?
Ansel wakes up, he's like, how did I get here? What happened?
Poor dude has no fucking clue what's going on. But it's like, yeah, we were upstairs at some point.
Yeah, I don't know when that was exactly, but yeah, sure, we were up there.
Like, if they had just reordered that scene or done it differently, or like, she didn't have to be in the bathtub for him to tell her about Bass and like all of that. But So what did you think about Bass as a character?
I didn't care about him at all, I feel like.
You weren't supposed to. He was
Yeah.
the asshole ex. Like,
Yeah, I
I
don't
was just
know.
curious if you had any thoughts about him or any comparisons.
No, he's weird. I feel like, he was the one who they were, stealing the ring
Yeah,
together,
they took
right?
his they took
Yeah, and
the
he was in the
jewelry.
basement.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just feel like I didn't even think they were that friendly. Like, I felt like they had a mutual interest, and that's as far as it went because he's gonna leave her ass. He
Mhm,
left her,
mhm,
and then he was totally I don't know, the fact that she felt she needed to wipe his brain because he would tell. I'm like, they're nothing. I don't feel any kind of way about him except for he's just more storyline.
mhm.
I don't know. He's trash, like a lot of the men in this book.
Oh, yeah. No, he's absolute trash. I just thought it was a little interesting that he kept saying, "I will protect you," and then, like, at literally the first sign of trouble, he runs out the door to save his
He's like,
own ass,
"I'll
and then
protect
when
you,
he's caught, he's
garbage."
yelling her name like a fucking idiot, and I was like, "Oh, yeah, no,
He's
that's kind of what Reed does when he's, after he finds out she's a witch, he's like, "I'm
yeah,
always gonna protect you, I'm always gonna protect you. Get
psych.
the fuck out.
Yeah,
You're a witch, you're not what I thought you were, get the fuck out."
yeah. That is similar between them. They both kinda drop her
Mhm.
at, like that, snap your
Yeah.
fingers, and they've done an about face on her. But I kinda
Mhm.
expected him to because there was something that happened, like, earlier where it kinda seemed like she couldn't really trust him. Like, I can't remember what the scene was, if they were, like, at that restaurant having coffee or something. They were doing something, and I'm like, "Oh, he can't be trusted."
Oh,
And I
yeah,
feel like
every scene with
yeah,
Bass was like, "No, this man is not to be trusted. He wants gold and he wants sex, and
and
he's
that's
gonna
it.
save his own ass."
Yeah.
He did try to rescue her, but then he got caught and, like, made everything worse.
Just go
So,
away. Just leave. He should
technically
just
the
ran
same as
away.
Reed, but yeah, he should have just run away.
Just run away. I can take care of myself.
Exactly. Yes.
Mhm. So, yeah, that's where I fall on that, no feelings.
I just I was hoping you might have another good comparison. I'm dying over the Edward Cullen. I'm gonna
I
think about that forever now.
I mean, but it's blaring. It's so blaring, like, how he's very like, feels like he wants to own her, you know what I mean? But
Mhm.
yet, "I can't stand your ass, you're a witch, but"
Mhm. Mhm.
"Nobody better look at you or touch you or try to dance with you or nothing, because
Mhm.
my"
Because you're mine. I'm
Right.
possessive. Even though I was just, alone with my ex-girlfriend and she was holding my arm and giggling at every word I said.
Yeah, this constant double standard. Like, I'm
Mhm.
gonna sneak away and break up with her, but, I don't know. He gives me the ick. He gives me the ick. I don't get it. The author better do something in the next book to make him a lot more likable to me, or I'm just gonna be like, bullshit. Nothing he does, I'm gonna believe.
Fingers crossed. I'm
Yeah.
I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful for the next book.
I think the best male character was Ansel, and he was only 16.
Oh, yeah, no, hands down, he was the best. He's so dorky and lovable, and he's like, "Oh my god, somebody's listening to me speak," and she wants to hear me teach her about the history, even though she
Yeah.
really doesn't.
No. Like, I felt bad for him a little bit, like, even, like, how she manipulates him with, like, singing that stupid Big Titty Liddy song, and he's like, "No, stop it, ah!" He's like, "Fine, what do you wanna do? Just stop singing that song!" I'm like, "Oh my god, poor kid."
Poor kid. But yeah, he
But
was the best.
that one scene, though, when she is introduced to him and, Reed says, "Oh, he's gonna stay with you and he's gonna," and then she
Mhm.
starts talking about, "Oh, maybe I like him young." Here it is. "I like him young though," quote, "easier to train that way." And then she says, "Perhaps I'll give him his first kiss." "No, I'll do him one better. I'll give him his first fuck." I'm like, "Girl, the fuck is going on? Why are you doing that? Why are you saying that?"
Because she wants to get a rise out of Reed. She wants to trigger him and make him mad, and
It's
I
just
think
so
her ultimate
cringe.
goal was to, like, make him not have Ansel around her,
Fail.
but yeah.
It was cringe and it was fail. It's like everything is so, and I feel like the author does that with her character a lot. She makes her so over the top. Like with
Mhm.
singing that stupid song and
Mhm.
saying these kind of things. It's so over the top. It doesn't hit the way it should. It's supposed to hit one way, but I just find it absurd.
Mhm.
I don't know if it's supposed to be funny or not. Like I feel like there were definitely some comedic things that were happening, but I don't think it hit for me. Okay, speaking of the comedy, did you think the
Yeah.
comedic beats hit or miss?
For me, they were usually hitting. Like, it could usually get a chuckle out of me. Like, when she was singing Big Titty Litty, like, that I laughed at because I have a sense of humor of a 12-year-old. So, like, I know.
And I just thought in my head, "What are you, 12?" And you said
Yes.
that.
Yes, I am. Like, that's gonna make me laugh, but I know it's not gonna make everybody laugh.
I'm like, "Why
And
is she singing that?"
I kinda saw it as somebody who, and, I had read this before, so I knew the ending, I knew the plot twist with the mother, but she had been so coddled for 16 years. She wasn't really allowed to go out and do much, like, she could play with her friends, but no, not a lot of witches knew she existed until her 16th birthday. So she was very coddled. She had everything she wanted, but in a very secluded, sequestered way. And
Mhm.
then, as she's literally dying because her mother has slit her throat and she, like, gives up this life for that life with the weird loophole that's not really a loophole, but okay, whatever. Um,
Mhm.
uh, I see it as somebody who, like, swings to the very opposite end of the spectrum. So, like,
Mhm.
the Amish people when they're on their, is it their month-long journey? I forget what that's called.
Yeah, I don't
When
know.
when when the Amish people come into America and, like, try technology for the first time, and all of a sudden they're, like, doing heroin and cocaine and going
Mhm.
crazy to the opposite of everything they've ever done. That's how I saw her character, of, like, I have been so sheltered, and now I'm going to do the opposite of everything I've ever done. I'm gonna smoke because my mom said you can't smoke. I'm gonna have sex because my mom says sex is bad. I'm gonna, say things that would piss off my mom, even though she's not here, but it's still that, like, internal,
Um,
gotta piss. I have mommy issues.
well, yeah, she has mommy issues. She tried to kill her, but
Yes.
I think I would have wanted more about that for it to hit for me the way it hit for you. Like,
Mhm.
tell me more. Show me scenes from the past. Show me, and not tell me. Give me
Yes,
something
yes.
to make me feel like, wow, she was really smothered. Although it seemed
Mhm.
like when she was young, she thought, hey, my mom loves me. She gives me
Mhm.
stuff. I this, I that. And then
Yeah.
she turned 16 and her world changed on a dime. Like, okay, I
Mhm.
went from being this princess to, hey, your ass is
Yeah.
toast. So
Yes.
um I feel like I wanted more. And even from the mother's point of view, the villain, I feel like she's so one note. I
Mhm.
would have liked to kind of understand more, and I feel like just the fact that their land was stolen, it was so stupid to me. It was so surface. I needed a lot more for me to buy into why the mother would think it would be cool to kill her daughter.
Mhm.
Um,
It was so planned and calculated too. It was like, "I'm gonna find this man, I'm going to have sex with him on this night because I'm fertile on this specific night at this specific time."
mhm,
Probably some witchy help too, but still, like, it was very
mhm,
calculated. And I'm
mhm,
hoping in the future books we get a little bit more backstory from her, like, maybe she watched her parents get murdered, because they keep talking about how everybody has this trauma, but also, like, her story was just, "I need to take all the land back." Like, why? What do
Oh
you gain
god.
from this?
And why did it have to be land? I don't know. I feel like that's kind of borrowed from African American history a little bit, like
All
Africans.
colonizing? All
Well, yes,
colonizers? Because
but I don't know. I just felt like she could have done something else other than that. because meshing that against and I don't really want to be like that nitpicky person, but like meshing that, like, oh, they stole our land, they did this to us. It just felt like I don't know. And then to put that back to back with how the black characters are treated in this book, I kind of was like, okay, am I supposed to feel bad for you or what? I guess so, but
But also no. And I'm that was another nitpicky part for me too, because like the witches, yes, we're supposed to feel bad for them, but also they're very evil throughout the story. Like
hmm
there's not a lot of redeeming qualities in any witch other than Lou, and even Lou we have issues with. But like Estelle, the troop at the very end when they like come to do their little play, they're all violently attacking the townspeople and trying to kill everybody. And then again at the very end of the book when they're celebrating, they're seen as very selfish and vain, with the
hmm
witches just, like, picking up men off the street and like, "Oh, you're so pretty. I like your jawline. Come dance with me. You have to stand in the corner while I eat.
yeah,
You don't get food. This is my party, but you're just, like, my little pet here."
yeah.
So, like, were we supposed to feel bad for them?
I
But
don't
no,
know.
because, like, both sides are really bad, and there's not a
Yeah,
lot of redeeming qualities for anybody here.
yeah. And then like how the author chose to tell that story through a play that was, like,
Mhm.
really on the nose, like,
Yeah, that was
literal people are just standing around like, "Is this real?" I'm like, "What the fuck?" Like, this how you choose to explain it? I guess?
to be fair, the townspeople seemed kinda dumb, just in general.
Well, like,
Like
"Is this real?" And they're all looking at each other, and even, like, what do they call themselves? The sisters or whatever, they're all
Mhm,
like, "Is that true to have a baby with a witch? Is it true?" They're all like, "What?" And then, everyone looks dumbfounded.
mhm.
And it's so stupid. I'm like, "I guess."
But also, at the same time, at one point, Reed said he thought witches just had, like, asexual reproduction. He didn't think
Oh
they
my
ever had
god.
sex with a man ever. And I was like, "Okay, so yeah, maybe this play
But that's
is
another thing.
necessary."
She's like, "Okay, so, yeah, when Lou says, 'Well, they have babies,' so what do you mean?" He says they're its. She's like, "No, they're women." He's like, "No, they're
Mhm,
its." She's like, "No, they produce. They're women." And he's
mhm.
like, "No, they only have women babies, so I mean, asexual." And she's like, "What are you talking about? They're boys?" I mean, it's like this whole
Mhm.
fucking thing. I just wish the author coulda did that completely different. It's just so weird.
I think she was more focused on the foreshadowing for his big reveal at the end. Like, she wanted to really hit the hammer on that note to make sure you understood that, yes, witches have babies, and yes, it is possible for boys to be born, but absolutely they do not have magic ever, so don't even think about seeing a magical boy ever. Hint, hint, wink, wink. Foreshadowing.
I
That was
know.
just overdone. That
And
it
then
was
it was.
overdone.
Yeah, and then the whole, we just send the boys off usually, we
"Goodbye,
send them
boys."
away.
Yeah,
And
like,
then, to
what?
later find out that, "Oh, poor, Reed, you were in the trash can." Oh my god.
He was in
I
the trash
just
can holding a very fancy
oh,
ring, and I'm just like and yet his mother has an identical ring
yeah,
still
they're
on her
twins.
finger, and
They're
I'm just
twinning
like
with the jewelry.
why did the evil witch give this baby a ring if she just threw him in the trash can? And, like,
Right.
why did she walk into town and put him in a trash can if the witches are off in this mountainous land and you're trying to get
She
rid of
could
a
have just threw
baby?
his ass over a mountain or something, and that's
Yeah.
horrible to say, but if she wanted to kill him, then why
Mhm.
would you go through the land? "Let me put him in the trash can. Oh,
Mhm.
here's a
Let
way for
me
him
give
to
him a ring
yeah, where he
and
can
put him
find
in the
his
trash
mom."
can, and,
Yeah.
like, it was so,
Ugh, so stupid.
so stupid. Yeah. That part was definitely
I can't. Okay, I guess. Yeah, I'm saying "I guess" to a bunch of stuff because that's how it was. I'm, like, reading it, I'm like, "Okay."
Mhm. Yeah.
If you say so. I want to talk about how the author describes the Black characters. There's like two.
Mhm.
So, Coco,
Yes.
is that on
Her name
purpose?
is
You name?
Cassette, but
Why are you? I
but
mean,
but that nickname is very that nickname. Yeah, that rubbed me the wrong way.
I'm like, Coco. Why are you calling her Coco? That sounds nothing like cassette.
Mm-mm.
Why
You
don't you
could have
call her
named her
Case
SETI,
or Cass
or
or
Cass,
whatever? Like Coco?
or
I
Coco was
and like,
yeah.
okay, so also, so while I'm on that note, how she described her, I don't find the quote, but I wrote down what I remembered. So she called her like, where is it? Brown skin, curvy with brown eyes and brown hair. I feel like that's all it was. But then I
She
think of,
mentioned something about brown skin on her hands and then being covered by, I think it was white gloves.
yeah, and of course her unmanageable hair at different points. She talks about her unmanageable hair, like
Mhm.
was up and she was dressed like this. But comparison to like the other descriptors, like for Seeley, beautiful porcelain skin, raven hair,
Mhm.
like the descriptors are really different.
Very vastly different. Yes.
And the only other Black person was another witch that was toward the end. And
Mhm.
she just says tall ebony witch. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Tall ebony witch.
And she kept saying ebony, ebony, ebony over and over and over again. It was whew.
Yeah, and no one else got like what, and we just, porcelain obviously, like,
Mhm.
but
Lou's mother was described as very white and pale with her moon silk hair. But yeah, that was the only, like, really white description of a character.
moon silk, porcelain,
Yeah.
raven, beautiful, the
Mhm.
white people get. And then the
Mhm.
other white people didn't really even, so I don't know. I just feel like it's easy to gloss over that if you're not aware of it or you're
Mhm.
not looking for it.
Mhm.
But she could have did a little better job with the descriptors for the Black people.
Oh, definitely. Oh, definitely.
I don't
We
know.
I have lots of thoughts, but we can save that for the after show when we bring up the other issues.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I
Yeah,
have
no,
problems
it
with
was very
that.
problematic.
Yeah. I guess those, I feel like I hit all the high notes on my major issues,
Mhm.
like the whole feminist stuff, how she treated the Black characters, the treatment that the Black characters got
Yes.
in the book, as well as just like this whole patriarchy theme. I just didn't
Mhm.
love. And it's supposed to be, and at first I couldn't tell, was this YA or not? So I guess it's older YA.
Technically new adult because they're both 18, 19, but it's still sold as YA just because if a woman writes a fantasy book, it's sold as YA, even if the characters aren't technically teenagers anymore.
It feels YA at times, like how immature some of these characters are. Even
Oh, yeah.
even in new adults, for these characters to have had such hard times, I expected them to act older. I expected Lou to feel older than what she was, and she didn't.
Mhm.
I expected Reed to be not, I mean, even though he was raised like a certain way and he was a stick in the mud, I still expected him to seem older, and he didn't. He seemed young. He seemed just as young as Ansel. Him and Ansel could have been the same age in my opinion.
I mean, I think that speaks to Ansel being more mature for his age, and
Mhm.
like we said earlier, he was our favorite character, and yeah, I think he was better than Reed in some ways, but yeah, I
Mhm.
understand what you're saying.
I wanted I just expected, okay, now this is gonna also sound very conflicting with how I feel about Sarah J. Maas. Like, I've talked about some of her books in the past. I've
Mhm.
complimented some of her books.
Mhm.
I read her stuff. I've also talked shit about some of her books. Like, we'll get into that later. But there
Uh-huh.
are things I like and dislike about the world she's created.
Mhm.
But I just noticed after the fact that Sarah J. Maas has a quote on the front of this book.
Oh yeah.
It says, "A brilliant debut full of everything I love,"
If
right
you
on the
open the
front.
cover, it goes deeper.
I didn't even read that.
Brilliant debut. Sparkling. Yes. Absolute gem of a book.
Bullshit, Sarah. I'm sorry. But I know why she did that, because I was listening to someone else
Mhm.
and they said that if you go on to Shelby's Goodreads or something, she talks about how Throne of Glass, I think it was, or A Court of Thorns and Roses, one of those two are her favorite books.
Mhm.
So
Yep.
I can sense a relationship here.
Probably. Yeah. I would believe that.
Right. And so, of course, you say good things about your friends. You could say that whole blurb without reading this book.
Mhm.
Which also that makes me, because like I said, I am not a diehard Sarah J. Maas fan. Like, I really enjoyed Throne of Glass and I really liked Court of Thorns and Roses at certain points.
Mhm.
So the first book I thought was average at best. The second book, like most people, it was my favorite of all of them. And it slowly started to disintegrate the further we get along.
Mhm.
Her third series I thought was utterly dull. And at the end of the second book, I stuck it through because there's this surprise ta-da at the end that makes you want to read the third book. I knew it was something, so
Mhm.
I got to it. And I will read the third book. But she is not like a top tier author. She's a bulk author. Do you know what I mean? Like, she's
Yeah.
shelling out these big books with a big world. And it's
Mhm.
not the best thing I ever read. It's
Mhm.
popcorn.
Yeah.
It's popcorn, it's cotton candy, you eat it, it dissolves, it's gone.
Mhm.
That's how this book is. It don't ask me 18 months from now all the details of this book. I'm not going to be able to give it.
Mhm.
So that's my 2 cents. If I don't know how much sense I was kind of rambling there, but that's
No,
just
I followed. And yeah, I mean, I haven't read any Sarah J. Maas yet. I will eventually at some point, I guess. But yeah, for a debut author, from the marketing sense, you want to get the big names on here so readers pick it up. And I'm assuming it's kind of in the same vein as Sarah, with the quote unquote strong heroine who's not pretty and docile and meek. She's, dirty mouthed. She can throw knives around. She's
mm, yes and no, depending on what series we're talking about.
okay. But like
So
I
yes, the themes are there.
feel like Shelby went tropey with this book. Like, this is a trope book.
Yeah.
And if you like Sarah J. Maas, you might like this, because I feel like it's in that same vein without having read it. I can't
Yeah. Yeah.
not to be like apples to apples, but like it's all the same fruit. Or like it's all popcorn, it's all cotton candy, it's all in that same genre, in that same vein.
Oh, correction. Shelby's favorite books include A Court of Mist and Fury, which is the second book, which I said everyone loves. Everyone loves the second book.
Mhm.
But I agree with you. It is in that vein, but dare I say Sarah did it better,
I mean,
because it is in the same vein. You're right.
mhm,
There's a strong heroine. There is a overprotective, masculine man, but
mhm,
not in the same way, right? Not in the
mhm,
same way. But there are clear lines to be drawn
mhm.
between the two
Oh yeah, no.
authors writing.
I would be curious to compare this to Sarah's debut. Like, whichever book she wrote and published first, compare this one to that one and be like, okay, so first book to first book, who's the better writer,
Let me
or who
see. I'm
had
gonna
the
look.
better editor to begin with?
Okay, so I'm gonna look and see her books in publishing order. Let me see if I can find it, because I am curious to see what was the very first. So her very first book is Throne of Glass that came out
Okay.
in 2012. And
Oh,
Throne
wow.
of Glass series is about a female assassin. And yeah, there ultimately ends up being a love story, but it's like war.
Mhm.
I feel like you can tell the progression of her writing.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Authors always get better as they keep going.
I did like that series. Although one
Well, I
book was
mean, like,
really
as the first book isn't always the best
yeah,
book, right?
yeah,
Authors put the first book out, and then they learn and they grow, and so I'm hopeful that the next book will get better and that Shelby will solve some of these issues, and if not in the like, I have hope for her writing career. For a debut book,
yeah.
this is good.
And I did listen to part of it on audiobook,
Mhm.
and let me just say, oh my god, I hate that I'm about to say this, but the minute I saw that man's name, I freaking knew it.
Uh-oh.
So, Holter Graham, he has this really nasally
Oh,
kind of
no.
sound. And I'm like, something about it, I didn't recognize him right away, but as soon as I saw his name, it clicked. He is the narrator for Alpha and Omega.
By Patricia Briggs?
Yes. Yeah, he
Oh,
narrates those audiobooks. Because, a lot of that is from Charles' POV,
yeah,
Anna and Charles.
yeah.
So, he has this nasally, like,
Oh, no.
talk to the, the Kingpin, kiss the ring
Oh,
kind of nasal
god.
voice. I don't think he is the best narrator. He's fine, but some people might find his voice slightly annoying. No shade, just trying to be honest. And I did listen to all those Alpha and Omega books, and after
Mhm.
a while, you get used to
Used
him.
to it?
You
Uh-huh.
get used to him and you can adjust, but he's not the best. And that might have hurt this a little bit as well if you're listening only.
Mhm. Oh, yeah. N narrators can make or break a story. You know
Yeah.
that better than I do, but they can make or
Mhm.
break a story.
Yeah, he's very nasally and I can't even try to act like I know his
Why
voice. I
wouldn't
can't
they
do it.
get a younger guy, though? Like, he's 19. Why would you have an old man narrate his voice?
I think that they picked the wrong narrators on both accounts. I feel like it's bad.
That is bad.
So, no, the narrators weren't awful, but I've enjoyed a lot better. And they continue to narrate all 3 books, the 2 of them.
Oh, maybe get the books from the library so you don't have to pay for
I
the
now see, okay, so the last book club meeting, these were on sale,
Oh.
and one of the members pointed it out during our meeting. So I bought these fucking books.
Oh, no.
And yes, it was on sale. They're paperback. It was a set, but I wish to God I didn't because they're gonna be given away, I'm pretty sure. Unless something crazy happens and suddenly I'm in love with book 2. Like, oh my
Fingers
God,
crossed. Fingers crossed. Good things can
today,
happen.
today, these are being given away. But anything can happen. Anything can happen. So let's think positively about
Think
it.
positive thoughts.
So that's where I sit with it. Should we go ahead and rate it?
We can rate it.
Or do you have more
Do
points? Do
No,
you have
no,
points?
I'm good. We can rate it.
Would you like to go first?
I'll go first.
Okay.
I'm giving it a happy 4 stars because while you have very valid points, I still enjoyed it. And I am being very, very generous for this debut author who I wish to God I could just like sit her down at in my business and be like, let me help you. That's what I want. I love stories like this, but I can push you to the next level. So I guess I'm giving it more of a like a I see your potential. I'm
Mhm.
falling for you despite your red flags, and I'm falling for your potential. That
Mhm.
sounds so bad. Oh my god. I enjoyed this. There were problems, but I enjoyed it.
I feel a way about potential. Potential is great, but it rarely delivers. I think about like when you think about guys, you're like, "Oh,
Yeah.
he has so much potential."
Yeah, I'm usually much more critical of men with books. I'm like, "Oh, you have so much potential. 4 stars, 5 stars." Or I'm the opposite. I'm like, I hate it so much there is no potential.
Oh my God.
But no, I'm giving this 4 stars.
Okay, that's awesome. I'm gonna okay, so I'm gonna share with y'all. So when I first finished this book, I don't know what, 8 or 9 days ago, I was giving it a 3. And today, when I started the podcast, I thought I was gonna give it a 2, but then I thought maybe I'll just keep it at a 3. I'm changing it. It's a 2.
It's a 2.
It's a 2. I just, in my gut, in my bones, I just, even though we had a good conversation about it, you know, the fact that when I went back and flagged all these things and I was rolling my eyes so hard and I started being more critical of the book, I just.
No, that's absolutely valid.
To be fair, if I had liked the story more, or maybe if I liked the characters more, I think some of the things I didn't like, and I've done this with other books, like, you know, you notice things, you flag things, but you choose not to let it bother you.
Yes.
Because you love the character so much. Or the story's so gripping, you're like, okay, yeah, I see these flags, but fuck it. It's so good.
Yeah. Yes.
That didn't happen for me. So that's why it gets a 2. I really want to turn it around. Maybe I could give a 4 for the next book.
Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed.
I mean, it's happened before. Like the first time I read, it didn't get a 2, but the first time I read A Court of Thorns and Roses with a group, I rated it a 3. And I gave it, and I was being lenient with the 3. And my group hated that on that shit so bad. It was horrible. It was like taken to slaughter. It was shit on. But then when I read book 2, I'm like, oh my God, what happened? Like, wow, this is a lot better. And I think I came out of it with a 4. So I think I'm hoping that's what happens here. Something similar where like the second book is just
better,
spectacular, and I'll be on board. So
I hope
if not,
so.
it's only 3 books.
It's only 3 books.
Yeah.
All
it's
right.
only 3 books. Okay, let's end there. I mean, my gosh. Book 2, Blood and Honey. Interesting title. 536 pages in hardcover. Get ready. Ooh.
It's going to be a big one.
Maybe I should start sooner than 7 days before the recording date, just in case shit goes left.
Just in case. Yeah, you need some breaks between chapters.
I need a buffer. Maybe I'll start 10 days before it has to be done. Okay, you guys, that is it. It's been a fun conversation. Thanks for entertaining my issues, Casey.
I had fun. This is great. He's Edward Cullen. I'm gonna laugh about that forever. I love it.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So if you are listening or watching on Patreon, leave a comment. Let me know what you thought. If we see you in book club, I'm ready for it. I will defend my stance. I am ready.
It's gonna be so fun.
Yes. And if you're listening just on any of the podcast feeds, reach out. Let me know. I'm okay with you saying, Tamara, you don't know what you're talking about. This is why it's great. Defend your stance. Defend. Maybe you might change my mind. Unlikely, but you can try.
You can try.
All right, we're going to call it. Have a great one, you guys. We'll see you next month. Take care of yourselves. Bye, guys.
Bye, everybody.
Did you enjoy today's episode? If so, please head over to Apple Podcast or Spotify and leave a positive 5-star review. It's a simple action that makes a big difference. You can also like this episode on your favorite podcast player or share it with your fellow bookworm friends on social media. Joining the Shelf Addiction Patreon family is another way to support us. For as little as $2 a month, you can help our team create even more amazing bookish content. If Patreon isn't your thing, Consider becoming a supporter on the Spreaker app for just $5 a month and gain access to exclusive audio-only content. You can find me everywhere, including Instagram, X, and TikTok under the handle Shelf Addiction. Join our book club of the same name on the book club's website and app, where we discuss all things bookish and more in a safe space. The Shelf Addiction podcast is a part of the Nerdy Maven Network. Thanks for tuning in.